All right, guys, welcome to the Masters in Motion podcast. I'm Jason Grubb, and we have a huge crew with us today. Last week, we didn't have a show. Our schedules just didn't line up, so we decided to just go with a huge bang this week. So we're excited. We've got a decent content or topic that we'll end up touching on today. It's been a busy news day, and Rick, it's good to see you here as well.
We're back at it again. We've been trying to line up a couple of these folks for a little while now, and schedules just finally came together. So with us tonight, we've got Jen Dieter, we've got Mike Kern, we've got Holly Cook. Right, yep, there we go, back there, and Anne Marie in riding shotgun or driving, maybe driving. There we go. So, for joining us, a lot of games athletes represented. Hey, we know we have friends that listen to just about every CrossFit podcast out there, but those that know Mike and Jen all that well, we certainly wanted to get to know them a little bit more. They're up to here in the off season, what their plans are for 2025, if there are plans. Just catch up. Welcome.
Good. Thanks for having us. Yeah, appreciate it.
Rick, I'm going to toss this in your boat. Where do you want to start tonight? All right, I'll start it. So I think we start with the pressing topic that we were talking about just before we clicked record, and then we do want to get into your guys' background. Rick and I have seen you guys on the competition floor for years now, and you have more experience than either one of us. So we want to get to know you guys. But what we did find out in the news today is that at least in the past couple of weeks, actually, there's been a couple of Masters athletes in the 50 plus age division that have been popped for using performance enhancing drugs in some sort. So 2 weeks ago, the first one came out. The second one came out today. And the second one with Sean Ramirez was a bit surprising because he is someone who popped 6 years ago, actually. And so this was his first time back at the games. He popped in 2018 and then popped again this year. And I'll just share that personally. For me, I have a personal connection to the first time that he tested positive for using performance-enhancing drugs because I placed fourth in my first year at the CrossFit Games and didn't stand on the podium. And I watched those guys down there eating pizza, drinking beer, so jealous that I didn't get to experience that. So I was hoping in 2019 that I would be able to go back and maybe get on the podium again. But in 2018, 6 months, about 4 or 5 months, I guess, after the games, I got a message from someone that said, hey, Sean Ramirez tested positive for using drugs. That means you're in third place. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. A couple days later, I got an email from CrossFit saying, hey, send us your tax info so we can send you $3,000 and your address. And they sent me a FedEx with a third place medal in it. That's it. Just an envelope and a medal. Which, hey, I was super excited to get a medal. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. I would have preferred to experience that in person. And now, fast forward, we have two guys in the 50-plus age group, two podium finishers that have tested positive, thus keeping two people off of that podium, and now making Rick a fourth-place finisher at this point, I think, bumping up a couple. So with all that said, what are our thoughts on this? Now that our thoughts are edited, now we'll have edited thoughts. Now that we shared our raw thoughts earlier, now that we're recording.
Yeah.
Mike, what are your thoughts?
Particularly with Sean, obviously you have a personal, experience with him and his previous test. I took second to him in 2016. So again, all my fans are like, oh, you just tried cheating back then. And they're like, well, I'm like, I know that, I was tested in 2016. So I'm like, he had to have somehow passed it in 2016. But, I'll say it's disappointing. You put yourself I'm a clean athlete. You guys are clean athletes. But if something pops and you want to be I know I would be it had to be a tainted substance. And that's like the boy who cried wolf at this point. And so when he first popped and he went with that argument, you want to believe him. You want to give him the benefit of the doubt because you try to put yourself in their situations. But I mean, and, I know back then he said he was going to, you'll hear my side. And I gave it some time and I never heard it. So it was all right. Then he kind of went, again, he went away for 4 years, came back. And I guess it's 2 years later because I think he kind of ramped it up. And I don't know. I mean, now it's it's hard to use the same excuse twice. So I'm where I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt back then, because I respected him as a competitor. Now I'm just like, I don't know if I could, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So it's disappointing for to see that. But also to put the black eye on the whole Masters field, because then, you guys see the comments, like, they're all on it. They just don't know how to cycle off it. I'm like, I don't know how to do any of that shit. I hate needle. I wouldn't go any near. So again, the furthest from it, people may think I'm on shit. I'll take it as a compliment, but I've been tested 4 times and, whatever. I believe me, I'm the dumbest, whatever, with terms of supplements that there is. But yeah,
what are your 3 supplements? Tell us again.
List them for us,
my
please.
coffee, my pre-workout, and my White Claws. Those are my 3 things in that order. But whatever. Sean's the big name, and it's always good to have big names in the field to kind of get eyes on, and, he's always a good story, but now it just turns any potential good story into his comeback into just another black mark and black eye. So it's disappointing. I assume there's more to come. Previously we get this big list, but now it seems like they're just kind of trickling names out. So I don't know.
Any other age groups either. Yeah. Yet.
No, it's all your age group, Rick. Yeah, I don't know what you cheaters are doing. So,
spotlight is unfairly.
If you end up on the podium, it's going to be a coup. It's just amazing.
Disappointing. It is black eye for the sport, and think in general needed more for what transpired in Fort Worth, and a lot of questions to be answered, I'm sure, going forward. Jen.
Well, I mean, Sean and I are the exact same age. We're both from Florida, so I've known him kind of coming up in the CrossFit, back in the day, the old school, Wadapalooza back in the day. So, I got to know him a little bit, and I was excited for him to come back and compete this year. I saw him at the games last year. We both were not competing, but we both were there, and I ran into him, and I was excited to see him come back. And then, he had that whole snafu with the video thing, but he still made it into the game, which I thought was pretty cool. So, I don't know, kind of like Mike said, I feel bad for him, but it sounds like if they did something that was wrong, then it should be found out. I don't know. It's a tough thing. I feel bad for someone because you can't, if he did something knowingly wrong, then that's not good. If he took something that he didn't think, had a banned substance in it, then he either didn't do his homework or he was, fooled by someone or who knows what. It's just a shame. It's just, like you said, it doesn't help our sport look better, so to speak, People already make
they
fun
say
of
is ultimately you're
something to make fun of.
Pull-ups and test. But as they say, ultimately, we're all responsible for what we take, us included. You're responsible for what goes into your body. So, Jen, you're right. It could have been. It looks loud and all, but I'll say is comes out. Get the test.
Tell you, I was talking with someone high up in the CrossFit space about the nervousness that I feel between the time that you stand on the podium or submit a drug test post games and the time that you get that notification that your payment for winning the games is coming. So essentially, once you get something from CrossFit that says, "Hey, will you complete this 1099?" You're good. That means you're good. You don't get an email that says your drug test is valid. It'd be great if they sent that and just said, "Hey, your drug test is valid." You just have nothing, and then you start seeing other people that have popped, and you're like, "Well, I haven't heard anything." And if someone is being announced as they pop, maybe they're down the road. So you just don't know. And so what I typically do is I'll save any supplements that I take. From whey protein to creatine, beta-alanine, a multivitamin from Amazon or Walmart, not Walmart, Whole Foods, multivitamin. I save all of those things, anything that I took, even a vitamin D caplet, whatever, until when I get down to the bottom of the bottle, I'll save 1 or 2 of them on the shelf in my kitchen. Once everything comes through after the CrossFit Games drug test and it's all clear, I throw away all these basically empty bottles. So telling this person high in CrossFit about this, and he says to me, he's like, it's incredibly rare for there to be a tainted supplement. Incredibly rare. If you are, in fact, this person said anybody who said it was a tainted supplement was pretty much full of it. And I bet there's someone out there at some point that had a tainted supplement, but generally his take is that if you tested positive, you were taking something, and you were specifically taking something. Maybe you didn't know that it was a banned substance, but that is on you. I'm checking the ingredients on a multivitamin from Amazon to make sure that the once daily is clear. All you have to do, if you want a lesson out there, it's really simple, especially with AI now. You just take a picture of the label and ask ChatGPT, hey, does this contain any banned substances? And it will tell you that if any of the authority powers out, like, no, there's no banned substances in this. Or you'll do it and it'll say, hey, everything is good except for this one ingredient, which is not banned, but sometimes it shows up as banned because of it's been made in the same factory as something else. So you're like, okay, well, never coming close to taking that. Jen and I, we were talking about that with ashwagandha prior. Yeah. Talk about your experience there, because I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago now, I started taking some supplements from a company called Red Remedies, or they reached out to me kind of thing. And I was like, okay, well, I like vitamin B. I like magnesium. I like these things. And like, this makes sense. I'll try it. And it had some herbs in it as well. And I was like, hey, I compete in the CrossFit Games. Hopefully I'm lucky enough to go back this year. And, I'd like to know about these herbs and whatnot. And so they were able to put me in touch with the master herbalist that creates the vitamin, the supplement, and everything. And she was able to tell me, because they're not, what's it called? NSF, right? Yeah.
Certified.
So they're not
NSF approved.
Like, guys aren't NSF. And they're like, it's really expensive. We don't have that, but we can put you in touch with the master herbalist. So I talked to her and she's like, hey, I wouldn't take anything that has cordyceps or ashwagandha in it, because I can't tell you that those ingredients are pure from a factory that doesn't have other substances that are made that could potentially be on a banned list kind of thing. And one of them was like their immune support vitamin or something like that. And I was like, okay, that's not something I take regularly anyway. So that's easy. Don't take that. And then the other one was some energy pill that I had never taken. So it was like, okay, easy enough. I won't take that. And I don't remember which one had ashwagandha and which one had cordyceps, but it was easy. Just don't take anything that has ashwagandha or cordyceps, because, that was what I took away from it. You never know. And then actually this year when I was going back to the games, I reached out to them again and I was like, hey, this is what I'm remembering. And they were nice enough to put me in touch with her again. And she said, yes, you remember correctly. No ashwagandha, no cordyceps. And we went through their list and I was like, okay, I'm not taking those anyway. So I should be good to go. But, I think it took some time and some investigation on my part to just make sure that what I was taking was good. But I'm like you, Justin,
Bring him up.
We drank a little bit before. Sorry. No, I did. That's why I'm not driving. But so I take fish oils, and I take fish oils from Amazon, like you said. And I'm like, oh, this is the first year I've taken these fish oils, and it's just fish oils. The ingredients just say fish oils, but it makes me nervous because I've never been drug tested taking that brand of fish oils before. And I just have faith that it's the same as the Costco ones I normally take, or whatever. So it's a scary thing.
Keep it simple. Yeah, you have to, I think it's their lesson. Know exactly what you're doing. Keep it simple. Double check and ask yourself, is this really taking us for? Is this really worth? If it's actionable, just don't go there.
Mike, what do you do, or what do you? Whose responsibility, in your opinion, is it to navigate this? I mean, I know you take none, but you've been in the sport. You've been at the games. How many times? 8 times?
7 times.
7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and you've been around this. You've seen this a lot. What do you think about those athletes? And again, there's been multiple athletes that say it was a tainted supplement versus something that, Ricky Gerard blatantly took something, right? It was just straight up, after the fact. I mean, he didn't admit it immediately, but after the fact, he said, yeah, I took something. I took something specifically.
Yeah.
But whose responsibility is it in this thing? Jen talks about talking to the herbalist at a company. I mean, should you go to that extreme?
I guess, yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's going to be on you regardless. So it's got to be on the athlete. Like, you got to trust your source. And if you kind of don't trust your source, I guess you go like the steps agendas and go, ask further questions. But like sometimes, yeah, if you, I'm naive enough where I'm like, if I'm going to go do we have our banned list, I want to look at the ingredients. If it's not on there, I trust it's okay. I've never gone that extra step, but I'm like, that could be on you, whatever, to take that extra step if you don't trust that source. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to fall on the athlete anyway. So it's, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to keep track of all this. That's why just do coffee, a little pre-workout, black label pre-workout, and then, whatever. Some wind down.
I'm a big fan of Black Label. I mean, they're third party tested and we trust them. I mean, you and I know we've both been Black Label athletes for years now, and we just don't deviate from that.
I know.
For us, we know what works.
Like, I was on that stuff once, and then we got tested that year, the first 2021 or whatever it was. And ever since then, I was like, hey, I think that may have been even before they were, because they started out small, and I think they didn't have the money for the third party testing in the beginning. And I was taking them, all right, I'm going to try them. They're recommended. And then I knew we went through that drug testing. I was like, all right, we're good. And then now they're third party tested and everything. But obviously after that first year, I'm like, I know I was tested with these supplements. I'm just staying with them, whatever. So they haven't. Yeah.
And I don't know if every company does it, but since we're talking about them, I've talked with them thoroughly. They do third party testing before they package it and after they package it as well, which just gives me a double layer of protection. And maybe they all do that. I have no idea, but I like that. So when we look at the comment section on something, when something like this is announced, especially any Masters athlete that pops, it's going to get announced. The comments are filled. And I mean, I literally just got a message now that said, did you see the Hiller video? I'm sure there's a Hiller video on this already. No, I haven't seen it yet, but he's going to make an argument. And I talk with athletes all the time that make arguments all Masters athletes are on this stuff. And it makes me irate because I know Mike, I know Jen, I know Rick, I know you're not. I know guys, all the people I work out with, I know they're not. I don't know anybody, and maybe they're all just lying, but I don't know anybody that's using anything like that. But the argument that some athletes out there make that are in the space is that all Masters athletes, the only way you do this is you cycle time, you cycle correctly. And I don't know what they're talking about with cycling correctly. I'm sure there's ways to do that. I've never looked into it because I don't want to gamble on that. But do you guys think everyone is using and we're just naive? Is that what's happening? We're just naive.
No.
I don't. What do you, Jen, what do you think?
I just can't imagine that that's the case, that we're all naive. I just think that there can't be that many people that are using. I feel like over the years, the people that stand out all of a sudden disappear and never compete again, or they get popped, or they're actually a man, or, whatever. I think.
All right. We went there.
All right, we'll edit that out.
Like the political ads up
in our division. So that's why I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, all those, I just can't imagine that there's that many people that are using it, or I don't know, maybe I am naive, but I'd be ashamed if it is the case.
To keep track of in my life, let alone worry about all that stuff. I have enough people getting through all the programming on a daily basis. You think I'm going to add complicate stuff like that into the mix? Forget it.
I don't know. We do see the one thing that may blur the line, because at this past year's games, we had, and I wasn't directly involved in the conversations, but I heard people secondhand, oh, hey, non-United States, hey, there's some stuff in other countries that's legal there, but not legal here. And there was some talks those guys, they openly say they're on this or that. That's legal where they're from. That kind of so when I was well, I can't wait for drug testing this year Cause I like, hey, just like Rick, you're like, hey, I'm moving up after the games, I fully expected like, hey, whatever, who knows, maybe we'll move up. But like that, like, I mean, I don't want to be naive and say people are on stuff, like whatever. Like, I can't imagine like you being a 40 or 50, whatever. Like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cheat. I'm going to get on stuff just so I could, get, this t-shirt with my name on it. And, so I mean, it doesn't seem worth it, but I'm not naive to say people don't do it, but when they throw out that blanket that they're all on it, whatever, I think there's pockets, like somebody may have a bucket list and they've been trying. And, maybe they're like, hey, I'm going to roll the dice this year. I'm just going to try. And then the other one is more like international, where it's like, hey, it's not illegal where they're from. So it's just that I go down the street and just get that. It's like my cup of coffee and this. So it's like, there's a little bit of that where I think we see some, testing popping there, but I'm not defending that, but I think there's an element of that.
We've seen that. Yeah. We've seen that in America, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of our athletes, who's from another country, he said he was sitting at a table with two other athletes from his country. And he said they both admitted to being on testosterone. And that's just, they all are. They're all on testosterone there. And I think that's one of those areas where maybe I was watching a Hiller video or it was a short or something, but he was talking about what he said, that he was on 100 milligrams of testosterone a week, and that at 100 milligrams of testosterone a week, you're not going to raise any flags or any drug tests for CrossFit. It's if you take 200 a week or 300 a week, whatever. It makes me wonder how they test for that and what they should be testing for. Because let's say that I don't even know I don't know specifically what the normal range of testosterone is. I just know that mine is low. It just is. And I've heard that people that take testosterone feel amazing and that it's the best thing they've ever done. And that sounds awesome to me. Like I would love to wake up in the mornings feeling great and not like be kind of hobbling, for the first, 10 minutes of the day until my legs finally warm up or my ankles loosen up. But, that would be great. But are all the athletes or all these guys on testosterone? Because it is easily available. I mean, I think you can get it. I don't know how to get it, but I think you could just get it. But how prevalent is that? And can CrossFit test that more clearly? Because again, this is a performance enhancing situation. Again, when I started this journey in 2018, I wasn't thinking about any athletes using testosterone, but it's become much more prevalent because it's more in the focus, because the general public has lower testosterone levels now than they ever have in medical testing history. Like fertility is way down, testosterone's way down. It's probably because of the crappy diets that we had in our former lives, or at least I know I had in my former life. But I don't know. I don't know any. Actually, I know two people on testosterone. Actually, know two people, and they have admitted it. One is an Olympic lifter, one is a CrossFitter, and they both are public about it and have no intentions of competing in their sport at the level. And I think I agree. I think that is fine, especially this Olympic lifter. He's like in his 30s. Man, he could move some weight. It's insane, and it's crazy. And he's like, yes, I had low testosterone. I feel so much better. He's very public about it. He feels so much better now that he has appropriate testosterone levels. But he admits out loud, I will never compete in this sport because this is not allowed. And I love that kind of transparency. And I think if you choose to not participate in the sport of CrossFit, do whatever you want to do, man. And if it makes you, if you feel better or makes you in a normal range, it helps your marriage or your life, whatever, that's great. But if you compete in this sport, there are compromises. Like I don't, I was trying to, I'm like, I don't eat grape nuts. I don't eat like Lucky Charms for breakfast every day because I want to be a healthy adult in this sport. Like that's not a banned substance, even though it should be. But and you make choices to be great at this. And one of those choices is you're not going to take testosterone, even if you're low, because you want to be in the sport. And if I'm ever not in the sport, that'll probably change. I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah.
I do think we need to add this to the list of things that CrossFit needs to address in the off season, as if they don't have a long list already. I did.
And how about
you mean address testing in the off season?
More communication. I thought there was very little about it this past season. To be more in the news fewer positive tests last year, and as a result, cadence of the news cycle just was lower. And suddenly, boy, it's right back in front of us all over again. But there's other issues I'm sure at hand right now too.
Well, that is a question. It hits the news cycle, and it is 2 athletes in your age group, Rick, which again, we're picking on your age group. But is that more than we normally see? Because to me, I feel like every year there's among the Masters athletes, which have, 20 to 40 athletes per division. I mean, that's so many athletes. Has there been more in previous years or less in previous years? It feels like there's a couple every year. Or is this abnormal?
There's a chronological list out there. CrossFit puts out. You can go back year by year. Generally a lot in semifinals, or a number in semifinals of those athletes, and especially teens comes to mind. And then there inevitably are some from the Masters community. I feel like there's more from the Masters community than there are the elite. Ricky Garrard's been the biggest example lately. But
I would say at the same time, they're in the elite. I mean, maybe they're testing all 40 athletes, but even if they're only testing the top 10 in the elites, that's 10 men, 10 females, that's 20 athletes. In the Masters division, there's 14 divisions. And if they're testing the top 5 in 14 divisions, I don't know what that math is. What is that like? That's like 80 athletes. So 70 or that pool is much larger. So if you have 2 testing positive out of a pool of 80, and you have 2 testing out of a pool of 20, I mean, obviously our percentage of testing positive is way lower in that scenario. Again, I don't know how many they actually test of the indies. The argument that I would make, if at all possible, and I think Bob and Joe with Legends moving deeper into the future, whatever the sport looks like, if they could, Mike, you said this either before or during, but that if they could even have that, I want to say threat, but like you could be tested at Legends, or you could be tested during the off season. Man, would that clean some things up out there if people are attempting to cheat the system in the U.S. and outside of the U.S. if they just threw that out there? Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the point. Like reserve. If you're going to an off-season comp and you know for a fact they're not going to test, then you're like, all right, well, maybe that's sort of like it's giving people a free pass to be like, hey, I'm not going to, let me see how I perform on this stuff because I could try it for free. So maybe that's how they, get into it. But I would say Bob and Joe, we reserve the right to test. You just put that fear out there. Maybe it's also, it goes against the argument that you're saying, they're just cycling it off in front of the games. Well, if they could randomly come in week 1 of the Open and just, hey, we're going to test, boom. And whatever you're trying to cycle off, you clearly wouldn't have been cycling off it then. So yeah, I would think, obviously it gets costly, whatever, and maybe it's unpractical, but just the threat out there, obviously you got to probably go through with the threat and be like, all right, I'm going to randomly test,
going to do it.
Justin LaSala, whatever, just throw a name out there, random.
Yep.
But yeah, whatever, just to, whatever.
Hey,
I think they should have to, put reserve the right, just put that fear or whatever, out there.
It's funny. In 2018, I went to the games. So I've been to the games 6 times. I've been tested 7 times. So in 2019, I got notified of a random drug test, or I was selected for a random drug test during the games in my second year there. And then having stood on the podium, I had to give another drug test that year. So I have 2 drug tests that year. And I thought that was really interesting to have been randomly picked. But I love that idea of the random picking. I was like, I mean, just besides the fact that doing the urine test is fairly unpleasant. Besides that fact, I say the more the merrier. Go for it. And in 2021, Kern, was that the year that they did a blood test with us? Is that 21 or 22? Yeah, we did a 21. Blood test as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's great. And I don't know what all those tests do. I think the blood test can go levels deeper, maybe.
So but that was they could H or maybe testosterone. I don't know. But I think you can only do that. That's what I heard, HGH with the blood test or something like that.
Gotcha.
I do think maybe there'll be more to come to what we've heard. I hope there aren't, but it's just one more thing that's got to be overcome. Media perception in the general public, but we know what we're doing.
And I have one more thought, and Rick, I feel you're trying to wrap this up, which I love. And
questions.
yeah, and that's, I think it's great. I want to ask this one question, and I'm not even sure how to phrase it, but sometimes there's athletes that show up on the scene, and maybe there was one in this last year in our at our games that show up on the scene, and a year or two before they're just not on the radar at all. Maybe they don't even have a impressive quarterfinal or semifinal run, but then they show up at the games and crush it. What do you do with that? Because you have not accusation, but if people that look at somebody, I mean, I have someone in mind. I don't know if we all know who I'm talking about, but we're just like, oh my gosh, this person is huge. Was there something fishy there? When it looks really fishy, and then they don't test positive, what do you do with that? I mean, is there anything to do with that? Because when I look at it, I'm like, well, if someone doesn't test positive, they didn't test positive. I don't know what you do about that. It is what it is. Maybe they weren't good and they got really good at a couple of things. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Become a star of an Andrew Hiller video. That's what happened.
I think he did a video on this person, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah, because I mean, like you can't be like, like if somebody gets popped, you can't be like, I don't believe, you can't not believe, yeah, of course they're gonna say it was something. And then when they don't get popped, you can't be like, you know how to pass the test. Like, so it's like,
yeah, right.
But yeah, I know, again, we've been around for so long. The names on the leaderboard, we kind of all know. When you see that one, like, where did this guy come from? And like, all right, it's rare to pop onto the scene with no previous kind of track record of or progression, like natural progression. Just like this person went from here and skipped a bunch of steps, and now they're right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does raise the gets the attention. And but then like you said, if you see them pass it, then you're like, all right, I guess they're clean, but it's still all right. We'll see.
And when it comes down to it, to run that risk just to get a shirt and a medal and a prize that's really not that much money. I mean, it's really crazy. Those that actually do make that gamble, and they sell their soul or they sell out, right? To cheat, to make their way to the top of the CrossFit Games, a niche sport in the Masters division, which is the niche division of a niche sport, for that 1 year and not get caught. Like, what is the gain in that? What is that? I mean, I don't know how you go back home and like, yeah, no, I'm the, I was on the podium, having cheated your way there. Like, what value is that for, at best, a $10,000 check? At best, when it was cost $8,000 to go to the games anyway. So this isn't a profit center, and no one's picking up sponsors. In the Masters division, you don't get sponsors because you win, right? It just doesn't, it's not how it works. So this isn't like a play the way the younger athletes do, that winner might make $300,000 plus a couple $1 million in endorsements, right? To cheat and work your way to the top here for, I don't know, a picture, like a cool picture, an Instagram photo, and a couple of 100 likes on Instagram. I don't know. Maybe I'm underplaying it, but it just doesn't seem worth it.
Yeah, agreed.
Where I was going to say, it's not, nobody's making money. Any of this.
All right, Rick, we can move on. I think we nailed it. We crushed it. We beat that horse.
Probably will be more to come, and there'll be more to talk about. Both Masters Chatter and Emotion. But I want to say, as we found out earlier, belated birthday to Jen.
Thank you.
So welcome.
Thanks, guys.
You've had an incredible run, and so has Mike. And to be the three of you right here, is something that I always towards, is the consistency that you three have shown over the years. So had a real good off with your finish there in Birmingham. Mike, another 10 successful year. I know you've stood on the podium times. Off season been like for you guys right now. Jen, you beating in some SoCal Wadapalooza.
Yes, we did. Cheers, ladies.
What's the off season been like? And looking forward to?
Well, my off season started with Anne-Marie convincing me to do a competition 2 weeks after the games, which I've never done that before. But it was a ton of fun. So, and it really felt like an off season competition. Like it was just fun. And for me, this past year has been pretty hard. Like I had an injury last summer and I did a lot of training by myself and rehabbing two injuries. And, so like CrossFit was something that I really wanted to do well in. And I really wanted to come back from injury and I really wanted to get on the podium and I was able to do those things, but every step of it wasn't fun for me. So part of the whole off season competition, Wodapalooza was like, okay, let me see if I can go do CrossFit for fun. Like, let me see if CrossFit can be fun. And it was. And so that was really rejuvenating for me. And there was a few moments like beating Jason Grubb and a couple other ones I could probably think of that.
And Sam Dancer. I mean, you were ahead of Sam Dancer and Jason Grubb. I mean, let's be clear.
Yes. Like the dream team, Mountain Men. What was your name again? Mountain Muscle?
Muscle Mountain. Muscle Mountain.
Yeah. 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 But so it was joyful. So that was a ton of fun. And then, I spent the month after that jumping into class some for the, conditioning portion of, what I felt like I needed for CrossFit, or to stay in shape and just did some fun things. I've done some Saturday morning team workouts, just some fun things like that to be part of the CrossFit community a little bit more. And then about maybe 3-4 weeks ago, it was like, okay, it's been a month since I've had a competition. I've been playing at CrossFit. I've been just working out for fun. I'm ready to start training again. And I think I needed that kind of reset to be like, okay, I'm ready to train. And then these girls came down. We're going to do Wodapalooza Miami. So they came down this morning. We trained hard today and practiced some, team sort of elements. And then we're going to practice again tomorrow, because once October hits, it's basically January already. Like the end of the year just goes by so fast. We were like, let's go ahead and get together one time before Wodapalooza. So we were able to do that and also enjoy time though and hit the beach. It doesn't feel like a crazy training camp because we're also, we walked what did we walk? 2 miles on the beach or something like that today, which was really quite enjoyable. So just enjoying some downtime and doing training and having some fun, because let's face it, once May, if I make it to the games again next year, once May, June, July hits, it's work. CrossFit becomes a little bit of a work. So I think having a little bit of fun and trying to figure out what is fun when it comes to exercise is important in this time of year.
I asked Mike that question too, but everybody here is in agreement of having shorter time between semifinals and the games next year, if that's possible. Felt like long.
Yeah, I want my summer back. You got to give me a little summer.
Exactly. You've been up to?
Not a lot of CrossFit. I don't, I normally take a couple weeks off, but this has gotten a little dangerous. I'm borderlining on intervention time. You got to get back to training. I don't know, doing a lot, just, whatever. I coach my kids' soccer teams and, so a lot of, I'm like, all right, my wife had a list of chores I've been doing. And I'm like, this is eating up a lot of time. I jump into group class, just to kind of keep moving. But I mean, for my aspect, I'm kind of, I'll say, in between training programs. I don't know, I've been Misfit for the last couple of years. They've had some changes. So kind of we've been talking with them, and I don't know, so I don't I don't have a training program I'm following right now. So I'm really just kind of bouncing into group class. I'm looking at, programs here and there, just kind of oh, that looks like a fun workout. I'll do that. In my gym here, we got a guy who's, I think, from Uruguay. He was hurt last year, but he's a young guy. So he took 11th at the South American semifinal 2 years ago, and his goal is to crack top 10. So I've done a couple workouts with him, just to get my ass kicked by that, him. But, I'm trying to get motivated. I declined my Legends invite this year. I was just because our games were so further back, I don't know. I just thought I needed time, and now I'm just I don't have that goal right now. I don't feel like I'm going to train for the Open. So now I'm Wodapalooza came and went. I kind of looked at the workout, so I was maybe this will spark me, and I just couldn't pull the trigger on doing the qualifiers. And then now I'm like, well, maybe I could do the Wadapalooza team. A couple guys are kicking around. Maybe to do that. I think that's what, next week that opens up. I don't know.
Do we have to
I don't know.
qualify as teams in Wadapalooza? Because I was just ready to sign up. I don't want to do any more qualifiers.
I'm
Jen,
sure
do we have to
you
do
could,
qualifiers?
I'm sure you guys could just roll in and they'll let you guys in.
And so you get an automatic invite if you keep the team the same.
See?
Shoot. All right.
Yeah,
Well, we'll
Commoners,
look
the
for.
common folks. You
Well,
gotta.
Common folks have to. I know. I missed that whole memo.
So I don't know. I gotta, whatever. I'm just, this has been I'll say like a much needed off season, but it's kind of going a little too long. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm too kind of like, it's normal to kind of motivation dip, but I feel like it's kind of hasn't come back up yet. And I don't know if I need like a goal or a target but also kind of like with the training, like program, like influx. I'm kind of, maybe I'm using that as an excuse. Like, well, I don't really have a one that I'm definitely following right now. So I don't know.
That's
We
a
got,
long time though.
You and
So-
Jason are the same age, right?
we are
How old are you guys?
48. This is our year 49, our CrossFit 49 year though.
You have one more year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm tired of being like the second fittest 48-year-old. And then next year I could be the second fittest 49-year-old. So I need a training program to get me over the hump. And I know Jason has a great one, but I feel like if I went with Jason, then it would be like, if you can't beat him, join him. And my goal is to still try to beat him. So
Look,
I don't know.
I'm gonna fly up there. Like the only way that I don't want to be on top is if another boulder athlete beats me. Okay, it's the only way that it's gonna get allowed. All right. So I'm just saying, like, we'll
feel
train
like
together for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. We could train together, but I don't know. Yeah, like the whole can't beat him, join him. Like, look at Kern. You can't beat him, so he's going to join him. So
No. No one's gonna think that. They're gonna think Kern wants to beat Grubb, and the only person to beat Grubb is another boulder athlete. So
yeah.
I mean, that story plays. It could
All
play.
right, we'll see.
And
see.
you
Oh,
got the
like,
goods, dude.
You're both Instagrams. It'll be like, yeah, Jason's giving Mike all of the, same workouts that he's doing. And meanwhile, your Instagram's totally different than Mike's. So you're
Exactly.
That'd be awesome,
Totally
right?
different
I'm
programs.
following like the burner programming account, whatever.
Right. It's all Mike's whole program is bench and squats, but what we're actually doing is a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I don't know.
Can't
We'll
beat him,
see. We'll
join
see.
him. Hasn't hurt because I'm in a different age group. So
I know. So that's it.
Correct.
You never know. It's like,
That's nice, dude.
I'm gonna be 68, being like, oh Jesus, one of these ever.
One of the days, Grubb's gonna die. Just one of these days, he's gonna keel over.
Yeah.
And I got a shot. We're like 92 years old. It's my shot this year. We do that.
I mean, that's the thing.
Element's gonna do it,
I was
man.
happy. I was happy this year I took 6, but I'm like, we got all these younger guys keep coming in, so I'm like, again, just to hang in the top 10, whatever. But that's the thing. I'm like, shit, my goal is to beat this guy on this podcast here, and still the goal. So I don't know.
Last year in the age group is a tough year. I mean, every time I've hit it, it's like, get me the heck out of this age group.
Next year, Mike and I, it's gonna be so exciting when we bump up to those 50s, Mike, and we just let them know that we're there. That's all we got to do next year. It's just let them know we're there, and however that falls. Sorry, Rick, but
that's all right.
we're coming. But we got a long
2
road
years.
between now and then.
I've petitioned with you in the past. Nix. Yeah, I remember that very well. If I need to, if you guys want to take a guess, you both think 2025 is going to look like. Any thoughts? There's been some talk recently about the rumors that there could be an all online qualification process for the individuals, which would be interesting. I'm just kind of catching wind of that, which I say, hey, welcome to our world. There's not no skin off our backs. But what do you both think might happen for 2025 for Masters?
I think it'll
Going
probably be
forward.
exactly the same. I could hope that the season will be shorter between semis and the games like we talked about. And I think it'll still be in Birmingham with a little bit more sponsorship and things to go along with it. But I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a lot of changes. But maybe I just haven't sat around and thought about the changes either. I just think earlier in the summer as opposed to waiting till Labor Day weekend. And I think just more pomp and circumstance or signage or more of that like CrossFit Games feel. I think they did a good job, but I think just, there'll be more money so they can do more things. That's my guess.
Cross for that.
Kind of a boring guess, but that's my guess.
No.
Yeah. Hopefully we get some consistency. Yeah. Just give us some similarity, too much change all the time. But I think for us, it's easy. Like you said, Rick, like the rumor is the indies are going to go online. I think there's going to be shuffle with them, but our path should probably stay the same. And as Jen said, hopefully they kind of bump that up from Labor Day to July or even early August.
It'd be so great, right? If we had our games in July, and then that frees up our later July to do family things in August to do more things. It'd be just amazing. I agree with you guys.
I think from 20 with no games, and then that kind of spawned Legends and Masters Fitness Championship. But putting CrossFit, we've had something different every year, whether it's been the introduction of quarterfinals or the expanded semifinals or go away from attached to the elites. The rule book or the announcement in like December and go, what the hell is the year going to look like this time? I mean, we're lucky we have an opportunity. There's always something different. So maybe a year of consistency. I think Jen and thing keep it the same, roll it back, change calendar a couple of weeks, and 2025 like that.
Well, guys, we appreciate you guys jumping on with us, and thanks for working out your schedules, Jen, for even sneaking out of dinner to come in and be a part of this with us, with your crew there. I know that for me, I'll see you in Miami. We have a team. We just have Sam can't make it, so Christian Harris is going to jump on our team with us. So that should be a fun swap.
Little switcheroo.
Low-hanging fruit. Yeah, a little switcheroo. So that
Could be in Miami. How about
that? That'll be fun. And I'll be out at Legends. So I think I'm the only one out of 4 of us headed out to Legends.
I'm going.
You're going,
Good,
Jen.
Jen.
Yeah. Yay.
Going to.
Good.
Excellent.
Where can, so the public, our audience, so we want to just, make sure people tune into the Masters Chatter, which is a podcast where Jen and Mike are regulars and have been since 2020.
Correct.
It's been a podcast that I've listened every time it comes out. I'm pretty excited because I love hearing from other Masters athletes what's going on. And, they make fun of Mike on that podcast because he is always watching leaderboards and he's looking at workouts and he's strategizing. And I'm that guy. I know. I love that I'm like, I know how Mike thinks. I'm the same way and have appreciated that over the past 4+ years now. Where can people find you to follow your journeys, guys? On Instagram, what's your handles? Mike?
I am Mike Kern _416. I think this is my first year I made the games. I was number 416. So that's when I was like, oh, I'm at the games. And then people like the younger people like, you got to get on this thing called Instagram. I was like, okay, what? Yeah. So Mike Kern 416.
Area code.
No. That was my first games number.
Love it.
And Jen Smash 13. Because Jen Smash was taken and 13 is a good number.
There it is.
Right. And earlier in the week when someone younger than me had said, like, you need Instagram, I picked up one of the boxes that are the worst part of CrossFit, moving those big boxes, and I put it down a little too hard on the ground and one of the sides fell off. And the Hulk movie was out at the time and someone said, Jen Smash. And
that's how it, okay.
So both CrossFit.
I wondered.
CrossFit.
Fun.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you guys, and we will definitely have you on in the future because, even our pre-recording conversation was hilarious. So we'll keep this going.
Good stuff.
That was good. It was a good time.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in to the Masters in Motion podcast. We'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast app. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us reach more listeners and grow our Masters community. Until next time, get bolder, not older.